Okay, another day. Yesterday, last evening, on the ABC News, Diane Sawyer had a thing about American beef. And I don't know about you folks, but in a lot of ways, the people here in the United States, we think of Mexico almost as a third world country. They're all breaking their neck trying to get across the border to the United States for the golden opportunity. And once again, my TV's distracting me. Turn that thing down. Yeah, and things are just lousy down there, so they can't hold their people. Well, it turns out that the Mexican government has had put a prohibition on American beef. American beef. That's one of our big things. We export lots of beef. We have the best beef in the world. Well, no, we don't. And the Mexicans won't eat it and won't allow it in the country until we do something about the copper level in it. It's one of the things that it has. Evidently, the beef has carcinogens of various types. And you ask, how in the world can our food supply, the beef, get in this kind of shape? Well, I'll give you a little background. We go back to Ronnie Reagan. Back in the 80s, when Ronnie came in and they established Reaganomics, and they were telling everybody it's not the government's money, it's your money. And they were cutting back on taxes, and they were cutting back on government funding for services, one of which was the meat inspection service. And I've had personal experience with this because I worked at the post office. And along in the early 80s, or early to mid 80s, a fellow up here, I wish I could think of his name, but he was a meat inspector, and they had done away with the meat inspectors because the funding wasn't there anymore. So they had to put him someplace, so they let him go to the post office. And they said, we will let the packing companies police themselves. It's like letting a fox in the hen house. Since those days, we've had E. coli breakouts. We've had people dying around the country with bad, terrible meats, to the point now where other countries won't even accept our meat. I think the Japanese have had a prohibition on it for a long time. There's several countries, and Mexico's the latest. I find it kind of ironic. I can remember when Jimmy Carter was president. He went to old Mexico, and it was naturally assumed that things were kind of backward down there, and he made a real slip. He said he had Montezuma's revenge, and boy, everybody got up in air because it cast Mexico in a bad light. Well, I wonder what the Mexicans are getting from our beef, Davy Crockett's revenge, I don't know. But it's a shame that the richest country in the world can't stay on top of their foodstuffs to where, you could feel safe eating it. Of course, I eat it, same as everybody else. It's kind of a dice game, you throw the dice, take chances. I've never had a problem, but there are people out there that have. We went from, I remember back during Ronnie Reagan's era, they changed the, what do you call it, the meat, they had prime choice, good, fair, and they changed all that. And I can remember when they did that on television one night, they had a bunch of guys in pinstripe suits who probably never saw a cut of meat, and they had the meat on this counter, and they were reclassifying, the different cuts of meat. And from that day forward, I've had a real problem getting a good steak. It used to be, get a steak, good, melt in your mouth, cut it with a fork, good stuff. Not anymore. A Gristle Loaf is, it's the only thing I can tell you. Just, we've traveled great distances to try to find some place that has good meat. We go over to a little town over here, about 40 miles away, and we buy our meat at a particular meat market, and it's been pretty good. But it's a shame when you can't walk into any store and be confident to getting a piece of meat and it's going to be edible. And I think you'll all agree with me, a lot of times just terrible. So my suggestion would be to put the meat inspectors back in those packing plants. I know that would be a whole new government system, new government, I can't think of that. But we need to do it, and we need to stay on top of our food line and stop turning out Gristle Loaf. So, have a fine one.